There's so few spaces for men and women, safe spaces where they can actually allow themselves to off-gas, to express the anger, the pain, the sadness, the grief, whatever it is that's inside. As strong as you are and as much as you are and will be there for this dog, or anybody's there who's going through something, always remember to give yourself the gift that you need. So whether it's a dear friend or a breathwork practice, whatever it is, to allow yourself the permission and the freedom to be exactly where you're at and to feel what you're feeling. I think that is going to be so important for the depth that you're there for this animal and the way that you want to show up, and also not forgetting yourself in the process.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. I'm sure you know how important it is to help your body properly detoxify. My goodness, if we really looked at how many toxins we are exposed to, toxins in the air, toxins inside homes, mold, furnishings, as well as food sources, all these things that our bodies are dealing with, we got to help it out. Energy Bits Algae Tabs are nutrition powerhouses that are great not only for detoxification, but also for energy and for beauty. I love Energy Bits because they have only one ingredient, algae, which is a superfood. They're 100% natural. They're also vegan, super high in antioxidants, high in omega-3 fatty acids, which can help with brain function, moods, reduce inflammation and muscle soreness. And this is great for people who don't like to eat a lot of vegetables. I mean, this is like a superfood. I can't emphasize enough. This is why I have it on my website. You can use my coupon code AmyF at checkout and you can save a whopping 20%. Please try them. Let me know what you think. I promise you won't be disappointed. Hey, you know how picky I am, right? I have very high standards in my life, and that's why I'm so thrilled to share with you a company that not only has high standards and values that align with mine, but also makes products that promote health and do what they're supposed to do, and they taste great. This company is Paleo Valley. I love their pasture-raised turkey sticks and their apple cider vinegar complex. And I even love their protein bars. Oh my gosh. I mean, forewarning, they're totally delicious and you might completely get addicted like I am. But they're worth it because you can enter my coupon code AmyFournier10 at checkout and save 10%. Just have fun shopping there. You can rest assured that everything there is healthy, is made with integrity, and you're getting what you think you're getting, which you can't always be assured of in this day and age, unfortunately. But don't worry, I gotcha. Please let me know your favorites. You can find me at FitAmyTV on Instagram and, of course, on YouTube at Awakening Aphrodite Podcast. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite Podcast with Amy Fournier. This show is about helping you to be healthy and fit in mind, body, and spirit, as well as harmonize your masculine and feminine energy, tap into your intuition, your true source of power, and awaken your authentic self. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for both of us today. This is for the women who watch and listen to this show, and the men that love them, and the men that we love, and the boys that we raise, and just helping to unite the sexes in harmony and joy. My guest today is Mike Salemi. Mike is a performance specialist as well as a men's coach. He helps men to learn that they're more than just a checklist of things. You know, they're constantly trying to live up to be what a good, strong man is. You know, someone who's always strong, always kind, always unshakable, has all the answers, has a successful career, is financially solid, able to do everything themselves, and of course, is a killer in the bedroom, right? Well, Mike helps men get real with themselves and get in touch with their true selves and feel more connected to both themselves as well as other like-minded men. Because his philosophy is you cannot hold your ground until you know what your ground is. He helps men to feel more clear, to have more self-trust, and of course, that very necessary sense of brotherhood, which I love so much. And, talking to Mike as a men's coach, because I guess you could say I'm a woman's coach. I never thought of it that way or labeled myself particularly that way. But I couldn't believe the parallels between Mike's work and my work. You probably know that I run women's groups, both in-person retreats and workshops, and online women's circle groups. By the way, if you want to join, just go ahead to my website, amyfournier.com, and join on the women's circle. In particular, that is a separate mailing list from my general mailing list, and you'll get notifications of all of our online meetings. But I was really blown away that the similarities that men, I always say there's more that unites us than divides us, regardless of race or gender or religion or creed or anything. But I didn't realize that the people that go to men's groups have a lot of the same challenges as the women do. They want to feel more connected. They don't want to feel competitive with other men or other women. They want a sense of cooperation and brotherhood or sisterhood. So this was a very, very enlightening conversation for me. And I'll tell you what else. I got really personal on this show. And honestly, I'm not even 100% airing this, but apparently I did air it. If you're listening to it, we decided to run it. But the discussion with Mike went a totally different, unexpected direction. And yep, I ended up crying and pretty much divulging something that was very, very painful for me that I was going through at the time. We happened to record this show right after the holidays, and I had just gotten my newest dog, the third dog, Sage, my beautiful new 2-year-old shepherd. And I only had her a few weeks, completely bonded with her after the first 24 to 48 hours. And then after a few weeks, I found out supposedly by blood work that she's got a disease. So going through personal hell, heartbreak, and I happened to air the show right at the time I was really in the thick of it. So, when you're emotionally raw and very vulnerable, and I hadn't really told many people at all. Frankly, I think I told like 3 people. Because it was right around the holidays and I didn't want to be a bummer and, starting with people about, my dog has this fatal disease and all this stuff. So I don't know, it just kind of came out with Mike. And well, you get to listen to this very personal exchange that we have. And well, Mike really demonstrates his talent at holding space and truly being a wise leader. That's for sure. And I shared it with you because I just figured that we all want to be emotionally, physically, spiritually healthy and whole. And it's nice to say, but it's harder to do when something is really raw and very, very painful or challenging, or you don't understand it. And it just hurts. It just hurts. And you don't know why it's happening and you don't know what to do, right? So I'm sharing this with you because I'm hoping that the way that I'm coping with it and coped with it and still coping with it, I'm not out of it yet, trust me. And I'm coping with it very, very messily. I'm not coping with it well. I'm struggling, and I'm sharing it with you because I'm hoping that by seeing that, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, a lot of us don't know what to do. Yeah, we're all trying to find our way. And maybe this will give you some hope and help to help you deal with something that you're confronted with that is very painful and challenging. So that's why I'm putting it out there. And I don't share personal stuff very easily, although you probably can't tell because kind of like, been doing a podcast, I think to really make it be, well, to really have it truly be authentic, you really have to share yourself, right? Anyway, I'm doing it out of a service and hopefully in service and in love to help others. And that is my intention. But I will say I'm really not comfortable doing it because it doesn't come naturally to me. That's for sure. sharing with people that you don't even know and probably are never going to see or meet, that know your deep, dark personal fears and pain, is a weird thing. But anyway, I hope it helps you. So we do get very personal. That's toward the end of the show. But do stay tuned for the whole thing, because Mike is a new dad and he gets into something beautiful that he calls baby medicine, which is so cool. We talk a lot about rites of passage, the importance of men's work, how we're all looking for that connection, the role of the mother, the role of the father, the soul of discipline. Mike shares with us a really cool book that he's been studying, and it talks about the 3 phases of life. We talk about how love is truly a double-edged sword, isn't it? The high of the highs and the low of the lows. And how to keep your heart open when it's broken. How do you keep your heart open and don't close down? That's the embodiment of the feminine, is not closing your heart. So, my friends, here you go. My very intimate conversation with Mike Salemi. And do stay tuned for the very end too, because he gives us some tips on how to tap into your yin energy as well. It's a powerful and personal episode. I can't wait to hear what you think, and enjoy the show with Mike. And we're back, everybody. Mike Salemi, welcome to Awakening Aphrodite.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Wow, you know what's really cool? We have so many things in common. I've been hearing about you for years. Like I mentioned in the intro, we both have been dancing around the Paul Check fire for a while. We have a lot of colleagues in common, and we finally made this happen to have you on the show. I'm so excited. One of my favorite topics is talking to men like you, because I feel like you're doing the male version of what I'm trying to do for women in the women's space. And it's so perfect, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what gender we are. We're all trying to get to the same destination together in love, like that's about it, And I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that? I'm just thrilled to have you here. And that's kind of what I wanted to share with you at the beginning.
Yeah, just super grateful to be here. And yeah, I think the work that we're both doing, I'm just realizing more and more every single day just how necessary it is. And the more conversations that I have with men, the more I understand that we all need this work. And what's interesting is, it's funny because I get a fair bit of calls from female partners of men after like events or retreats or programs, and like, expressing gratitude or just simply sharing how their families changed, whether it's in the relationship, in the marriage, with their kids. And so it's really it's been such an honor to do this work and to step into this work and to witness the changes that are happening within the family, within the fabric of these generations, and to kind of just end some of these cycles that are truly not supporting the types of men and the type of people that many people are striving to be. So yeah, I'm just stoked to be here, and really excited for what we dive into.
Well, that's the ripple effect, right? And actually, when
Yeah.
I started out in the dark ages, like 400 years ago in my career, I wanted to name my business The Ripple Effect, and it was taken by, I think it was like a water purification company or something. And yeah, and because that's really what it's all about, right? What you do, what I do, what people in our space do, and really all of life, but everything affects everything, right? And one of the hardest things I think a lot of people have, and I don't know about men, I'd love to hear what you think about this, but for women, self-care, feeling guilty, taking the me time, right? Like, God forbid I, take a bubble bath, or, take 20 minutes to do yoga, one morning or whatever, just, not prioritizing or really feeling like I earn or I deserve that time for myself is very difficult. But the thing is that when we learn eventually that when we do, I'm just such a better me. Like, I'm going to be a better mom because I'm less triggered. I'm less irritable. My body's more relaxed. I'm calmer. I can handle the stress. When I take the time to prepare the healthy food, my brain can focus at work rather than being jittery and jumpy, or I fall asleep from low blood sugar, pick it, right? So it's all about the ripple effect. And I can see how your work, not only with the men themselves, but will affect their relationships, the way they father. I definitely, one of my questions for you today, Mike, was I know you're recently a new dad. So one of my questions, and maybe we could just go into it, is, you know, how your life has changed in perspective, because as I mentioned in the intro, you're obviously a men's coach. So how has your perspective changed as a men's coach now that you're actually a father of a little man?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And like as you were asking it, like I just felt my just my chest start tingling and just start getting so excited because it's really, it's such a I'm in such a time of transition and such a time of like in awe and witnessing this little man who's such a part of me. And so, I mean, he's right at this point in time, he's 11 months old. So very codependent, yeah, understandably so. And also constantly regulating himself via my nervous system. And so one of the things that we do is, so my wife and I, so I watch little Luca in the morning so she can sleep a little bit. And so this morning he was up from, this happens, Amy, like every day. Like usually it's 4:30 to 5:30 a.m. he's up.
Yeah.
So this morning at 4:30 a.m. he gets up and he's just all smiling. I wake up to like this little infant crawling over my neck. And
Oh,
I'm just so tired. I was working late last night. I'm launching a new program on the first. So I was up till like 11:30 working.
oh,
And like so later than normal, but that being said, so I'm tired, and then I got this little cute little infant who doesn't know that Papa's been working. And
yeah,
just
yeah.
what I've realized, one of the many things, and there's so much that's changed, but one of the many things is I've realized that no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted, when it comes to him, there's always another level of energy of like when it comes to him going pop, he can't say pop, he says dad. Looking at me, I'm like,
It's so
okay,
wise.
let's get up. So then we get up and we do our, I chase him down, he started to crawl now, so I chase him around the room and then we play music together. He's learning how to beat the drum barely. I sent that video to a video to Paul the other day, but I've really realized there's so much more in me when I look at him, and I'm just like, I'll get up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., doesn't matter. And one other thing that comes up is I just posted this video on my social yesterday. So this was the last retreat. So actually he's been a part of 2 retreats, or he's been there because my wife does the cooking. And so she had attended. Yeah. So we normally had a helper with him, but in this last retreat, we did a different retreat center. So he was more present at different points during it, obviously not during like the deep work and stuff like that, but as men were passing. And I posted this picture, Amy, that literally still brings me to tears. It's on my Instagram, and we had a photographer there. And what you see is, I think, about 6 men sitting around a couch, and then you have Luca on the floor, and every single man is kind of looking at him or looking in a distance, and they all have different micro expressions. And one of the things that I've always wanted and realized was boys need men. Like boys today, especially more than ever, need men. We need models, we need elders, we need rites of passage. And I always wanted and had this dream that if and when I ever had a son or had a child, I wanted that boy, if it was a boy, to be surrounded by uncles. And I wanted that boy to soak up the life experience, the skills, the wisdom from them, and to witness these men through their micro expressions and then playing with Luca. And I had guys come up to me afterwards saying, dude, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your family with us. Like that baby medicine. It's like,
Baby
it's
medicine.
baby medicine. Like I just had chills. He's taught me how to play again in a way that I never knew. Like, because what does he want from me? He wants presence. He wants play. He wants touch. He wants that just security. And he's taught me just by being him. He's like reconnected me and these men to the purity, to the innocence, to the parts of ourselves that I've forgotten in many regards. This work, as you know, is so much about remembering or getting back, and less about adding more, but pulling back those layers. So he's been this symbol for me of just like what's really good in the world. So that's just like the tip of the iceberg, but it's been such like, yeah, such sweet medicine having him in my life. And I just I love this little guy so much. And yeah, I'm just stoked to be a papa.
Baby medicine. That's a new coin term right there. I'm gonna give you credit. I love it. It made me even think about like animal medicine or puppy medicine or yeah, I mean it's what it is it's a reconnection, right? It's a
Mm.
reconnection to source and a truth and authenticity, and I love it. That's so powerful. Um, I want to get more into that whole thing about men uh, being the ones who need to bring up the boys into men, because in all cultures, just like with women, the men taught the boys how to be men and the women taught the girls how to be women. And we also know it wasn't usually the father, because it wasn't the direct relationship, because it was too emotional, too, it wasn't detached enough. It was usually a grandfather or an uncle, or like you said, in your circles. So it was very, very important that we are very much lacking now. And, I think, was it Robert Bly or someone who had said that if you don't find the mentor or the teacher on the outside, you'll find it on the inside subconsciously, and you'll create it somehow, like probably not in a good way, like a gang or something.
Mm.
We're all going to look for that guidance, that mentor, that guide, that approval, or that validation in one shape or another. So hopefully we're going to provide our youth a good outlet, a solid outlet, a good role model. And that's one thing that I see has been lacking, is that, some of the role models we got out in the forefront are not the ones that I would want my kids to be like, that's for sure.
Yeah, you nailed it. And what I'm really seeing in these retreats and these men's coming, like I feel really blessed because for whatever it is, the work that I've been doing over the years, like man, the quality of men, or just simply like the willingness, like everyone comes from different backgrounds, everyone comes with different traumas, everyone comes with different stuff, and some, obviously like really heavy shit and like stuff I wouldn't wish upon anyone. And it's blown my heart wide open to see men showing up for themselves and showing up for the other men in the way that they are. And I feel really blessed that the quality of men who have been showing up. And so what I'm realizing is not only do men need this, but now more and more men are waking up to the reality that they need this. And to your point earlier, it's like these rites of passage, these initiation experiences, these points of individuation, they will either, what I'm finding is you they will either you will either choose them or they will choose you. That's kind of how it works. And today, with the amount of comfort and the amount of just ease that so many young men have, like they don't really need to challenge themselves. It's like the path of least resistance. Like I get it. Like I get it. Like if you're a kid and it's like virtual reality and you can play with your friends all day and sit down and just do that, like I get it. And obviously, like outside when I grew up, I spent 95% of my time playing outside, like literally
Mm-hmm.
playing games and getting dirty. And outside it's not what it used to be. So I get it, but there's consequences to that. And so there's consequences in communication, there's consequences to social skills, there's consequences to just men and young boys, like having the believing in themselves enough to trust that they can get through hard stuff. And so in the work that we're doing, whether it's we've had I even had a 17-year-old kid come, 17, 19. And so that's the youngest I've worked with at the men's retreats. But it's so inspiring. Like some of the way that they're showing up, it's blown me away at that age to step into this stuff with men who are much older and stepping into a sweat lodge. So it's not always, what I'm finding is it's not always that they learn from us, just like with Luca. Like I'm learning from them, the
For
courage that a
sure.
17-year-old boy shows in this stuff, and the resiliency and like the willingness to hold space and listen to these stories of these men. I'm like, wow, this young man is inspiring the hell out of me and touching a place within me that I didn't even know was there. So
Cool.
it's one of those things that, yes, I think that we all young men need to be guided, but also they provide their own nourishment. And it's refreshing when I'm getting all fired up. Like it's really cool too. What I'm finding is like we've been in this work. for quite some time, right? Like we work with Paul, we've worked with different people, but there's one thing that's really refreshing about a young man who doesn't have the language and who's just raw. And it's not like nothing's like there's no spiritual terms. It's just like it's
Yeah.
just what it is. And I love
Yeah.
that energy of just rawness. So it is so necessary, and I'm seeing like they're there to teach me too.
For sure. It's always a two-way street, right? That's
Hmm.
yeah, that's incredible. Let's clarify for all of us, Mike, what do we mean by men's work? Like if someone says, I know you like to call yourself a men's coach, like what exactly does that mean?
Oh, it's such a good question. Um, so I'll start off by saying I think that depending on like the lineage, the culture, the system, what like everyone's gonna have like if someone were to say like what's women's work, I don't like it's such a broad term, right? And
Yep.
so if you look at some of the men's work, let's just say the people doing really good work out there. So like I'll just throw out some of the common ones like Sacred Sons, Mankind Project, John Wineland. Those are all, organizations that are supporting men developing themselves, becoming more whole or becoming better versions of themselves, guiding them through rites of passage, but they're all doing so in their own way. Like Sacred Sons, from my knowledge, I haven't experienced it, but I've got plenty of friends. Like their flavor is like, I don't want to say more indigenous, but you see like more rituals that are reminiscent of like different cultures. If you look at John Wineland, his lineage comes from David Data, who wrote The Way of the Superior Man.
Yep.
So like every brand has their kind of own. And what I would just say is men's work to me is safe spaces, safe containers for men to come together to receive and give, because it's not all about receiving, it's also about giving
Hmm.
feedback, for example, and sharpening. But it's where we can receive a nourishment that I believe only men can give. Not to say that there's anything wrong, or there's not tremendous nourishment that comes from our feminine partners, for example, or those with a larger feminine essence. But what I've realized is there's a safety, there's a level of just connection and conversations that tend to open up, for example, that happen in men's only containers that is really unique. So I think it's really, to me, a safe container where men can show up to be themselves fully, where there's really there's nothing asked of them. There's nothing expected from them. But what I will say is, while I don't expect anything from the men coming to the work, what I do want, like I do want the best of them. And so if I see them playing small, or if I see a blind spot or whatever, it's my responsibility, I feel, from a loving place to illuminate that and then bring it to light, and then we can workshop it together. So men's work is just an umbrella term for me for that safe space where we can grow, where we can heal, and potentially receive the guidance from elders and or the guidance from other men who can chaperone us through these rites of passage. Because you're exactly right, like our fathers play an important role, or whoever that father figure is. If someone didn't have or biological father wasn't there, maybe it was the grandfather, maybe it was the uncle. But you're exactly right, to your point earlier, sometimes they're too close to home, and there needs to be some layer of separation to be guided in that. And so these can be safe containers where men can be guided through rites of passage. So one quick example might be, over the course of the days like that we run, the sweat lodge is the rite of passage. So we prepare men for that. And the sweat lodge that we've been running out in Mount Shasta is run by a Native American elder who's been running lodges for almost 50 years, like 45 to 50 years, who's done a bunch of sun dances and is a really powerful man. So to connect our group of men with this wise elder, to guide them through that, to have almost like a rebirth experience in that container and in that space, is really what we strive to do. So safe rites of passage where men can be with other men to sharpen, to grow, to heal, and to experience and connect to the best versions of themselves. Those are just some of the ideas that come up when I think about what does men's work mean to me.
And what kind of men come to you?
What's so cool, Amy?
Like what are they desiring?
Oh, well, in terms of like one thing, like we've almost had an 82-year-old gentleman come. He
Awesome.
didn't end up coming in the last minute. for some reasons, but it's from 17 to we've had late 60s, almost an 82-year-old man. So I've had people who have been incredibly successful in the business world, top CEOs, sold companies, are at a place in life where they've made a ton of money, but they made the way in which they acted or the way in which they pursued the financial success came at a cost, whether it was relationship or play or joy. So they were looking for purpose in this next phase of life. So whether it's wealthy men trying to find purpose and meaning, all the way up to young men just starting on this journey, trying to figure out who in the world are they. We've had, so the variety of what they're coming to for has been so different. So I can't really say like any type, like specific type of man, which is also what I think is one thing that makes up, like, I would say my brand of men's work is that, I mean, truly, like, all are welcome. The only prerequisite is that there's a willingness to explore, that there's a willingness to support, to be supported. But a lot of men, as a general theme, there's a few common themes of why men are seeking out this medicine, at least what they've had in conversations with me. No matter how close, like in physical proximity, they could be to other men, maybe they grew up with childhood friends or they have brothers. No matter how close they could be in physical proximity, they feel incredibly distant with men. So they're longing for a connection. And connected to that, their experiences with men in their life have been more of like unhealthy competitiveness, like envy, jealousy, like you see another man succeed and like some part of you wishes that he would fail. So connection, unhealthy competitiveness, a good fair bit of men are coming with relationship challenges, feeling like they don't know how to lead their relationship. They want to step into a leadership role in their intimate relationship, but they just don't know how. They don't know how to lead and open containers of communication. And so what they find is and I'm speaking in general, but they try to almost like stay in their lane. I'm going to be the financial provider and that's the way I'm going to lead. But when it comes to outside of that, they don't really know how to guide. And what I really see is most of these men don't have a relationship with stillness and or meditation. Like, they're very up in the head, but there's a disconnect. It's almost like they're disembodied as just a theme. So bridging the head and the heart, I think, is one of the biggest things we do through somatic experiences. So through things like breath work. So giving guys a visceral, experiential thing where they can connect with their heart and open that up. Those are just some of the things that they're coming to. Definitely like health is a foundation for all of it. But at least the guys that have coming, it typically hasn't been the number one thing that they've been coming. That competitiveness, that loneliness, that isolation piece, the leadership piece, those in the last 3 years have been like almost in every single conversation. When I talk to a guy, they're like, I just feel so isolated. I just feel so overwhelmed is another big one that also comes up. I'll pause there, but those are some of the big ones.
Well, everything you just said, I could have thought you were talking about a woman's group. All applies. It's crazy, Mike. Those are
Wow.
all similar. Lack of connection to ourselves or others, the isolation. I just did an episode of SoloCast on healing the sister wound. That there's actually a term for it, of like competition. And with women, we were always taught that, females, they're so catty. And, this whole Darwinism theory that's completely been debunked, of course, that, survival of the fittest and competitive with each other. But we know also, but at the same time, supposedly we had to live in tribes in order to survive. So which was it? There was definitely cooperation. There wasn't that much of the competition of, I'm going to steal your man and, you need a village to raise the child, what we talked about earlier, right? Like, raising the young ones or from, a community thing. So everything you just said, and particularly getting out of the head and into the body and into the heart. I mean, that's awakening Aphrodite right there. I mean, I have to name my show doing that, because I, like a lot of women, grew up very ambitious. I was, daddy's girl, and tried to, do the right thing and work hard and nose to the grindstone and all that stuff. I won't get into it again because my audience has heard it a million times, but just the journey back to my whole self, and
Mm.
really bringing that, embodying, not just talking about it, but really embodying that feminine essence of, sit back, relax, receive, stop over giving, enjoy, get out of your head, feel more, be vulnerable when it's safe. Of course, that comes with the caveat. And a lot of women are in the same boat. So I think it's amazing to hear you say those objectives, which are common in the men that come to you, because they're the same. They're very, very similar for the women that are looking for women's groups.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I
Yeah.
and I and I imagine, and please, correct me, at least what I'm seeing with the guys, like the desire's there. Like it's more like they know, and even within myself, when I reflect on myself now or at different points in life, like they know what they want. Like I don't think it's false to say, like, many of these guys, like, they don't know, like they know what they want. They just don't know how. They don't know how to embody. Like they want to be better communicators with their ladies. Like they want to be stronger, like, leaders. They want these things. They know what they want by and large. They want greater depth in relationships. They want to root for the other guy. They just haven't had it modeled, let alone been in a container where it can actually be fostered and held and guided in a way that's like, yeah, they just don't. That's the biggest thing. They just don't know how to get there. And I think that's the big frustration. It's like, yeah, I want these things, but how in the hell how do I begin creating it? If, for example, like, I think out of the last 5 men I've done one-on-one coaching with, three of which all had their fathers disappear, leave, weren't present before the age of 3.
Wow.
So in those, so it's very present with me. And in those men, oftentimes their moms, their sisters had to play both roles. And that's not to say that their mothers weren't amazing, but there's just, again, a certain level of nourishment that a child, especially a young boy or young man, needs. Like Robert Bly would talk about this. Fathers, before the Industrial Revolution, there was so much, fathers and son would spend so much time during the day together. So there's something, doesn't even need to be spoken, that would happen through osmosis between father and son. And then when the sons went in, or I'm sorry, when the fathers went into the factories, and then all of a sudden the sons didn't know what the father was doing for whatever it is, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, then the father would come home and sit on the couch or whatever. There was almost like in the psyche like a distrust of the father. He didn't know what he was doing, didn't know where he was. But before that, there was so many hours that they would learn from osmosis. And so a lot of these guys who didn't have a direct biological father, or didn't have that person in their life, like, where they're meeting challenges is in the areas you discussed earlier, the validation, the trusting themselves. Like I see them, like, coming to me, like, even just asking, like, for like, what do you think about that? Like, how did I do? How do you? And I'm like, how do you think you did? How do you feel about it? Like, turning it back and just kind of like guiding them through a process of nourishing themselves, and giving them that self-validation that they're always looking for but never got from their fathers. Yeah.
I think what you're saying is so critical. So if we could just paint a picture for all of us today, back before the Industrial Revolution, and people were working around the homestead, right? I mean, life was hard. They didn't have Uber Eats. You didn't get food at the push of a button without even getting barely off the sofa. I mean, you had to work, you had to labor. I mean, you had chickens to feed, and fences to mend, and corn to be shucked, and clothes to be physically washed, and everything was laborious, and it was a team effort. That's why they had a lot of children, because they would contribute at home. So to your point, the children, without even maybe a lot of verbal teaching, were just watching and seeing how the parents, what they're doing all day. They're not just even just, not the bad thing, but sitting at a computer basically still, even if you're doing deep intellectual work, it's hard to tell how hard you're working when you're physically very immobile, right? But to my point, that if we just envision being around a homestead back in that day, and all the activity going on, and all the chores and the physical work, that they see that life is about participation, and this is, how things are done, even just by watching, not necessarily the verbal teaching. Because from what I understand, a lot of men, their role as the father was to teach, but also the temperament, right? You hear about the two T's, the teaching and the temperament. So the teaching, with fathers not being physically present because they're off at work all day now, trying to support the family in the only way they can, which is the way the world is set up at the moment, but they're gone. So that teaching is missing, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And then when they do come home, maybe at 6, 7 at night, they're fried. And so their temperament, the other T, might be abrasive, might be short-tempered, might be just exhausted and just don't have anything left to give now to this boy, this girl who's looking for guidance, for mentorship, for validation from daddy, which is very important. And they might get the bad side of the temperament. So, and this leads to a lot of the male bashing, I think, and a lot of angry feminists, because they only saw that side of their dad that was the exhausted, tired, pissed off, whatever. And God forbid if he hates his job, or doesn't like his boss, or doesn't subconsciously agree maybe with what his company's mission and values are doing, they're really going to get the short end of the stick on the temperament. So all of these components of the father role is kind of absent, and we're wondering why kids are kind of looking for it elsewhere and don't really have that solid values guidance. What do you think about that, Mike?
I think you said it so beautifully and perfectly, because even if someone does have a biological father, right, in their life, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were the father that they needed.
Yeah.
And the father in the capacity. So it's like I get that. That's so real, I think, for so many men. It's like, yeah, maybe they had a father who provided financially, or whatever, didn't, but emotionally wasn't there, and didn't maybe have his own rites of passage, and then has been unconsciously reenacting cycles from his father. So just because someone, I want to clarify, like, just because someone has had a biological father in their life does not by any means mean that was the father that they needed in many capacities, that was fit to guide them through these things. So I think you're spot on with that. And, I was just thinking with Luke, I mean, he's only 11 months old, but it amazes me. It's interesting because I observe, and my wife Lauren too, like, we observe how he navigates the space, how he interacts differently with me and her. And he looks, and my wife Lauren will comment, like, all the time, like, he looks at me different. Like
Really?
yeah, it's interesting. Like, he's just, now he's crawling fast. And we've got little, not jungle gym, but like little things he can start, like getting some, I'm introducing risk. Like, I'm introducing ways that, like, letting him fall safely and doing that. And it's amazing, after he either accomplishes something or is questioning or falls, he looks at me immediately. Like, if Lauren and I are right there, he'll look at me first, most always. And even like when he does something, Lauren's like, do you notice how I'm right here, like, he looks at you right away. And so that's what, at a young age, right, the way, like, the role of the father, like, if the mother represents the infant's relationship to self, because in the womb, like, there is no separation between baby and mama. So that's why, like, our relationship to ourself, our self-esteem, so much of that is reminiscent of our relationship with mom, or whatever that represents. And then with Papa, it's our relationship with the world. Like, Dad represents, it's the first symbol or first person outside of mom that represents the outside world. So we model that for them. So I've shared this on other podcasts, what I'm realizing, especially on my own, like, my role as a dad is to the best of my ability, prepare Luca for the world, and also teach him how to be himself. And with that said, at a young age, like, he's 11 months, that validation piece that the father represents, like right now, I'm that for him. So I'm externally validating him, but then there will be a point where I need to teach him how to self-validate. But right now he's looking to me for that nourishment. So I'm seeing it in real time, just as he can't speak, he can babble right now. And so he'll climb, and then he'll get to a point he doesn't know how to get down. He just knows how to get up. And then he looks, and then I'm like, good job, bud, good job. And you just see his spirit light up. But there will be a
Wow.
time where when he asks me, when he speaks, like, Dad, how did I do? Sometimes I'll validate him, and sometimes I'm going to ask him the question, like, how do you think you did, bud? How do you, teaching him those skills to self-validate. But I think you nailed it, and that is really our roles as the father, and it changes, and I'm going to learn it firsthand. Right now, there's a phenomenal book. If there's fathers listening to this or soon to be fathers, it's called The Soul of Discipline. And what I love about that book is it discusses 3 phases of parenthood. First phase, the main role of the parent, and I'm going to say especially of the father in this regard, is the governor. The governor sets the boundaries, the limits, so that we can give the infant context on what's safe, what's not safe. We provide that structure. And then the second phase, I think it transitions plus or minus, I think after 7 or something like that, we become the gardener. So we start kind of like ushering and nurturing and watering this young man, in like 8-year-old up to like 14 or so. And we nurture and we garden and we tend, and we allow them to come into their own personality and their own person. And then after that, we become the guide. And then if we've set up that stage, then we basically become that facilitator, that guide, kind of nudging that young man or young woman into the next phase of life. And so I realized, like, right now I'm the governor. Right now I'm like setting up those boundaries, that structure, but also validating from him. And it's so palatable, Amy, when he looks at me, like,
Yeah.
nothing needs to be said. I'm just like, I feel it in my nervous system, that that validation piece, and so much more that I don't even have words for. It's hard to put into words. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how your heart just blew up when he was born? Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like you hear the expression that love is limitless, and it's eternal, and it's the most powerful force in the world, but it's a real palatable thing. And like you, I'm in holistic health, and I know the power of the mind, body, spirit. And when you get your heart broken, that's a real physical thing. People literally die of heart attacks and heart failure and heart disease and all these things from broken emotional hearts, and we were talking about White Eagle Medicine Woman and her situation, and she lost her daughter, I'll just say, and just the physical pain of that. And what I'm getting at is that I experienced this in a different degree with my dogs, because I do not have children. But when I got a second dog, I didn't think I could love any more than I already loved my first dog. This dog was, I used to say, it was my heart with fur on it. Like, his dog was my heart. And I thought I was going to blow up from love until I got the second dog. And then, what I learned, Mike, was that I didn't love the first dog any less. It was like my heart got bigger to love more. Like, I had more love, just started to just like blow me up like a big, what's on the Willy Wonka and that blueberry girl who ate so many blueberry pies that she started like levitating with, she turned into a blueberry balloon. And that was me. So, like, did you feel like that with your son? Like, because you love your wife, your heart was going to blow up when your son was born.
The way that I've described it is it's felt like I'm on an IV drip of MDMA. Like literally it'll just be random moments, random. I'm like, boom,
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow.
Wow.
That's honestly the most accurate way I can describe my
That's
experience of it.
awesome.
It literally feels just like this whole body hit of, I don't know, oxytocin, whatever.
Yeah.
that just like, I'm like, wow, I didn't, just like what I was sharing earlier about like in the morning, no matter how tired I am, like
Yep.
I had no idea that there's more. And it
Yeah.
happens like like I love what you said, like your heart grows to hold the capacity of this love. And the other way I've heard it described, which I love what you said about it's like having your heart with fur on it.
Yep.
It's like literally I'm watching my heart or a
Yep.
piece of my heart outside of my body.
Yep.
And I caught him in the hospital room, and so
Wow.
I saw him coming out. And then I placed him on my wife's chest,
Wow.
and I went right to the side of the bed, and he opened his eyes. So I was the first.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's
Powerful.
it's so powerful and so heart
It's
opening, and
evolution right there, keeping it going. That IV
it's
drip.
it's exactly that's yeah, heart outside of the body, walking around or crawling around,
Yep.
and that IV drip,
You
and
can
it's
you can say, Mike, that's my heart with diapers on it.
yeah.
Right there, crawling around the floor. And
Yeah.
so, not to be a total downer, but then, we got to talk about the flip side of that. Love will bring you to your knees. I mean, it's
Mm,
the highest of high and the lowest of lows. It's like everything we're just describing, that deep MDMA feeling of just completely levitating bliss, that you're out of your mind. You can't feel your body. You're just so much joy flowing through your veins. That flip side, the same capacity you have though, is the suffering when you have loss. Like when I lost that dog that had, my heart with fur on it, and now I have a dog that's sick and has supposedly a disease. I'm working my way through that, but my heart has been just broken, just broken. And it's like, love sucks. Like, but I know what's important for the feminine. And obviously I want your whole take on this and your advice, if you have any, is the lesson for me now, and really opening up my feminine, is to stay open, to keep my heart open. And that was the deal I made with the dog I have now, that supposedly has this disease, that I have to just keep, I don't want to cry, but I have to keep loving you even though it's killing me, because I can't close my heart, because I have the opportunity to give her back, to the place I got her, because obviously something's supposedly wrong with her, and replace her with another dog. But I can't close my heart to her. So I'm going to keep it open, even though it's torturing me. So let's talk about love for a minute. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's
mm,
such a double-edged sword, right?
mm. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even want to imagine anything happening to Luca, and it just like even just the thought, it's like you're like it would, yeah, absolutely devastate devastate me if anything, even small, like what happened to him.
Right.
And what one of the things that's coming up is like within this work. So I imagine your listeners are very familiar. Like masculine, feminine is not a gender thing. Like we all have a masculine and feminine essence within us. Men, by and large, have more so, generalizing, of a masculine essence than a feminine essence. But the masculine, like what I'm hearing you share, and what I'm hearing you working through as well, is like I think a lot of this work, like a healthy practice that joins the masculine and feminine, if the masculine is the container, is the ability, is the container that holds the feminine expression. So if the feminine expression is anything that's associated with movement, sensation, emotions, feeling, any of that, the masculine is what holds that. And it is the integrity that holds the movement of energy within us. And so I think with all this work, what we're doing is and I share this a lot with the men, what I'm working with them and what I'm hearing you as well working through now, it's how can we, yeah, practice or train ourselves to increase the capacity of our nervous system to stay heart open even when we want to collapse?
Yeah.
How can we teach ourselves to hold
It's
more?
rough.
How can we, and I don't know any other way to do it than to practice it or to live life or to, that's why, we in the retreats or whatever, like we practice that through breath work or holding different poses. Like we hold these challenging poses for long durations and we breathe. Maybe we eye gaze or not with another man, but we hold these poses that are challenging, that force you to create this point of stillness that is the masculine. But then as you're going through the discomfort of, let's say your arms are up for 20 minutes and every part of you wants to collapse. Every part of you, my fucking shoulders are dying. I want my arms to go down. When the fuck is this going to end? How can you teach yourself, even when you want to collapse, to still stay heart open and strengthen that capacity? And I don't know any other way to do it than to live it. And even though that practice or whatever I just shared, like you have in all this stuff, you have the practice itself, but then the second piece that's equally, if not way more important, is your relationship to the practice. So it's like, what is that practice? Like we're using a physical posture and breath work to simulate life. But then what we find is like what shows up in that practice. Okay, maybe I drop my arms or I give up. It's like, where else is that showing up? Where else are we being pushed in that way? So all bringing back what I'm hearing from you is you're going through your practice right now, or your real life the life of it, of testing your body's ability to stay heart open even when every part of you wants to collapse.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the funny thing is I've gone back and forth, like, with I've had moments where I'm like, I literally am just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll just share exactly what you said. All I could do was keep breathing.
Mhm.
And this is what it comes down to when it's that bad, right? Everybody is, I just tried to keep breathing, and I just kept praying, and I
Mm.
kept talking to my soul, my higher self, great spirit. I know from my training that animals come to us to teach us things. They carry things for us, as do our children. Like Khalil Gibran says, our children do not come from us, they come through us. And it's so difficult when you're in it though, Mike, like
Mm.
I'm in the fire, I'm in this liminal space of, I don't know how it's going to go for her. I don't know if she's going to be okay. I don't even know. Well, I am keeping her, but I mean, a few days ago, I didn't know if I was giving her back. I'm like, that whole thing was gut wrenching. And it's just like, and then you get into the why, and I'm having this inner discussion with myself going, well, what makes you so special? Terrible things happen to people all the time. I mean, tragedies all the time. Why would I be immune from, getting this beautiful new dog that has a problem? And okay, I got to deal with it. But then I'm like, but I can't deal with it. It's too painful. I mean, like I'm going back and forth in my head, but okay, but this is a spiritual practice. This was given to me. What, how can I expand? How can I learn? You know what I did, Mike, is I have 3 dogs. So I talked to my other dog about it, and I was crying and he's licking my tears. And I said, what do you think I should do? What should I do?
Mm.
Because, animals are tapped into that right brain, higher realm, much more than we are. And I did my best to use all my tools, all my training, like anybody in the situation would do. When you need it the most, you really got to go on automatic pilot. And I just tried to get into that empty the bone space of listening. And he said, you just love her. You just love her, just love her. You got to learn to accept, because my intentions were to have her just be healthy. I just want a healthy dog, right? You just want a healthy son. You just want him to be okay. You want him to be okay. It's like, is that too much to ask? I'm not trying to impose my will. I just want her to be healthy so she's not suffering,
Mm.
But then what I got was that she was suffering. She might be suffering, and you, Amy, have to be okay with that. You know, like you're going to have to learn how to hold that space when there's nothing you can do and you're watching, and you are just going to stay open. Don't close, love her through it, and suffer with her. That was really what it came down to. And it's like, that's the answer. Yep. And if Great Spirit wills it, she'll pull through. And so now, Mike, what I say to this dog is, I really hope you stay. You know, I'm going to do everything I can to help ensure that. But if you need to go, that's okay too. So if you continue to not eat and stuff, then I'll know that it means you want to go. And I'm okay with that. I'm just sharing this because I really hope it helps the audience and everybody with us today, that, you know, this life and really being vulnerable in love and trying to figure out the spiritual stuff, it's not pretty all the time. And it's this stuff that rips your heart out that is when it really matters, you know? And I'm just hoping that this might help someone else who's going through something very difficult. And that's how I'm handling it. I don't know what else to do. I don't know if you have any advice for me or thoughts on that.
I think you just gave me some advice, to be honest. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And what was coming up, I had this just recent memory. It's happened in different capacities quite a bit. And so Luca got sick early on, just with like a flu, but it was like a day. But he recently was sick for about 10 days. We all were. He actually like coughed twice in my mouth, and I was like, all right, I'm getting sick. I know this. And but it was really challenging because he's got his teeth coming in. He was sick. And what I've really realized is, like, there'll be moments like he won't sleep at all. And like an infant, even a puppy, right? Like Luca doesn't have the awareness that, or like, this is my imagination of it, but like he doesn't have the awareness that the pain will end. Like when he has, like, imagine how painful
Yep.
tooth, like if any adult has ever had any tooth pain, like they know like that is just like excruciating. So imagine an infant, you just came into this world, you don't
Yeah.
have the tools, you don't have the awareness, and literally you got teeth that are ripping your gums open, and you don't have the faculties to self-regulate, nor once again the awareness that this pain will end. And it's been so moving and teaching for me, because in these moments where he's like not sleeping at all, and literally like the cries are so like, and what I've realized is, like, as much as I want the pain to end, like my role in that is to hold him. So I'll hold him for 1, 2, 3 hours, whatever it takes. And I'll sing and I'll just bounce and I'll just go back and forth in the room. And what's been so powerful is like sometimes he'll cry, but oftentimes it's like a moaning. Like it's like, ah. And it's like he's off gassing and processing.
Yeah.
And I've realized, like, I'm bringing this up because when you said like your job right now is to be there with your dog and love to the best of your capacity, and that's enough. And what I've realized in these moments in a different way with Luca when he's going through these challenges, and as much as I want to take his pain away, it's like my job is just to be there with him and to regulate myself to the best of my ability and tune myself, because he's regulating off me, just like your puppy and your dogs, like as
Yeah.
you said, like very, like they're also regulating to you. And not to say that, you know, to suggest that you like, just to hold that vision of love and of health, and just hold that. And
Yeah.
you know, when I'm holding Luca, I'm just holding that, like, I got you, son, I got you, I got you, I love you, I got you, you're safe, I got you. And
Wow.
that's what I'm realizing is my
Yeah.
role is maybe not to try to take the pain away, is just to be there with him in it. And that might be the most loving thing that I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's That's gold right there, Mike. What you just said is that's it. And to me, what came to me was to hold that divine feminine place of
Mm.
comforting this dog, because I know you're a dog person too, and all dogs are different personalities, and some are like I had a Rottweiler that could run into a wall, and she was really tough.
I had
And then
Rottweilers my whole life.
yeah, oh yeah, cool, awesome.
Wow.
And I've had big dogs, small dogs, all different kinds. And they're like kids, they're people. They all have their own personality, and I'm a big believer in nature and nurture. It's definitely both because they come in a certain temperament for sure. I'm a believer in that. I really have a lot more empathy for other people now with dog problems, because sometimes like this dog, she's what's known as a soft dog. She's very sensitive, very sensitive.
Mm.
And she came from, let's just say, a military background. So to your point, that part of what I'm learning to do is just hold that mother energy with her of
Mm.
it's okay,
Mm.
it's okay. I know your tummy hurts. Okay, it's okay if you don't feel like eating. It's okay. It just, even though it's killing me inside, because I'm like, please eat something. But also I think it bears underlying what you said about me being very conscious, Mike, of my own energy, which has been probably the hardest thing of all. Like
Mm.
you said at the beginning of the show, and I know we're getting to the end here, but you had said at the beginning how, you were exhausted, you're working on this new course, and your cute little son crawls his little baby feet across your face, and all of a sudden you get a burst of energy. And that's so awesome. And it's like, okay, so how we can manage our own state, our own emotional state, because kids and animals, they can feel it if you're faking it. You got to be authentic.
Mm.
You got to feel it. Like one of my little dogs had a little bit of a car phobia. So long story short, but basically when a car would go by, it got to the point where I would get tense and go, oh shit, here comes a car, because I knew he was going to freak out. And then I'm like, wait a minute, he can feel me getting tense before the car comes. So now it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm creating. So I had to, dial that right back. Uh, but what I'm saying is we all have to be conscious of our true energy, because we are projecting. So very hard to do for me to give that divine mother energy when my heart's breaking, when I know she needs that from me. Do you have any tips on how we can do that to give that energy out when we're having trouble feeling it ourselves, or with men, feeling strong, and I can take care of my family. I'm strong. I can do this, when they might be really afraid deep down, or questioning their adequacy, their ability, like, oh God, do I have this? Can I hold this down for them? How do we do that, Mike?
Mm. I love that. The first thing that comes up is like, well, one, not forgetting that, like not forgetting to take care of yourself in the process, like, and getting the support that you need along the way.
Okay.
Because if you become a martyr for your dog, and you put on, whether it's a mask or whether it's real, whatever, like, you're strong and you hold, but then you yourself get to a point where you haven't allowed yourself the freedom or the permission to express, to off gas, to cry, to do whatever. It's like there will be a point where either the quality of that care, of that divine feminine, will either go down, and or you'll reach a place where you just won't be able to hold it all together. And so what I find is, like, even in the men's work, like we don't do any we do a little bit of optional tobacco as the only medicine, but the medicine is the breath, the medicine is the heat and the lodge and the prayers. And for example, in the breath work that I lead, which is somatic release breath work, like, in those containers, the releases could be anything: laughing, shaking, crying, whatever, screaming, hitting, whatever wants to come through. And what I find is there's so few spaces for men and women, safe spaces, where they can actually allow themselves to off gas, to express the anger, the pain, the sadness, the grief, whatever it is that's inside. And so the only maybe invitation I would have is to, as strong as you are and as much as you are and will be there for this dog, or anybody's there who's going through something, always remember to give yourself the gift that you need. So whether it's a dear friend or a breathwork practice, whatever it is, to allow yourself the permission and the freedom to